Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining another episode of the Skin I'm In podcast. I'm your host, Chanel, and this is a place where women can tune in to gain peace through clarity, purpose through inspiration, and the permission to be themselves through the stories of other women. If you're enjoying these episodes so far, click the like, share, and subscribe button so that more women like you can be positively impacted by the stories in this podcast. My guest today is an experienced clinical naturopath and herbalist who uses her training in naturopathy and Western and Eastern medicine to provide natural health care for women from puberty to menopause. She is passionate about raising health literacy for women of all ages and provides safe, evidence-based solutions for a range of conditions, including cognitive function, mental health, weight management, hormonal health, adrenal status, and infertility. A believer in the power of our bodies to express and heal, she's committed to transforming symptoms into opportunities for learning, healing, and growth. Supporting women's wellness journeys isn't just something my guest does in her clinic. She lives and breathes her passion in other ways as well, such as being an educator and learning facilitator in naturopathy degrees, a keynote speaker, a wellness ambassador, and a woman so graceful I felt instantly calmed by her voice and presence the first time we connected. When she isn't helping women transform their lives through wellness, my guest enjoys walks in nature with her dog Sweet Pea. She also loves taking pictures and was previously a photographer before she was guided down the path of medicine and naturopathy. Welcome to the Skin I'm In podcast, Su-Lin Z.
Hi, Chanel. It's lovely to be here, and hello to all of your lovely listeners.
I never really thought about vitality or health as an adolescent, and I wasn't taught to look out for signs of changes in my body. And when we were talking the first time we connected, it really made me reflect on just how much I was trying to get through mood swings, and then everything from then until I hit 35 was just to survive. I just don't think enough of us really know what's going on in our bodies, what's normal, and what we can do about every stage of our life cycle. Can you explain to the listeners what each of the 4 phases are that women go through?
Absolutely. Can I first say, me too? That was my experience growing up. And as you mentioned, I have had a career change. So moving into natural medicine, it actually was not something I thought I would be doing in my adolescence at all. I didn't really have a conception of it. But I grew up with a medicinal diet with a father from Southeast Asia. And so the food we ate and the way that we ate was quite medicinal. So that was kind of ingrained. And then moving on to your question about the phases. So I can kind of differentiate it based on age ranges, if you like. So if we go first to adolescence, where, there's little you and little me, and we really don't have much of a sense of what's happening in our bodies. We've actually already been through incredible hormonal shifts before adolescence. And we're born, unlike boys, we're born with eggs. We're born with these little seeds of life inside us, and they're already starting to decline. So by the time we've reached adolescence, we've probably got about a fifth of what we started with. And, a lot of people, they think about the 30s as the time when we might start to lose our eggs, or the 40s where our fertility is dropping. Guess what? It starts dropping as soon as you're born. So we're already going through cycles. Some of us are menstruating. So we're going through this monthly phase of letting go. And it's quite an emotional journey, not just a physical one. So we have these bodies. They're going through sometimes monthly cycles, but not always. Adolescence is a time when we're settling in with our hormones. And some of us have the most perfect childhoods. And even despite that, we don't have great hormonal systems. So it's very variable, actually, hormonal health in adolescence. I do work with a lot of young girls. And according to regulations in Australia, I can't try to influence their hormones. And I think in a way, it allows me to better use food and nutrients, to really understand which nutrients are the ones that regulate hormones, and how can I work through the diet to influence these changing hormones in young girls' bodies. So that's more the adolescence time. And then we move into our, say, 20s. And 20s is, for many of us, a very self exploratory, discovery sort of life phase. And it was like that for me too. I was kind of discovering who I wanted to be in the world, and to be honest, I don't think I really knew who I was until I hit my 40s. But in my 20s, I was starting to work, and I was studying, and I was moving in social friendship groups, and they were changing and evolving as well. There was a bit of travel. And I would say that what I've observed working with women in their 20s is that the hormone system is usually pretty regular at this time and fairly stable. But if lifestyle and diet does not support healthy hormones, that's when you start to get issues. And then they bleed into the 30s. But you get to your 30s and you think, oh, now I've got this condition, but it actually began in the 20s when you were sort of partying too hard, or, not maybe self-caring as much as you would like to have done at that time. So I think it's really a time for this concept of finding the balance between our yin and our yang, because our yin is sort of that is a really strong driving force for us in our 20s. We're very fertile. We have a lot of the femininity aspects. We have glowing skin. We have beautiful, lush hair, for most of us. We have fairly good digestion. We tend to sleep very well. So all of those sort of self-nourishment, self-nurturing aspects that our bodies do involuntarily without us having to think about it, they're all those yin qualities. So they tend to be quite strong in the 20s. With hormonal issues, I tend not to see too many major issues in 20s, but I do see a lot of stress these days. I don't know if you relate to that from your 20s, or even if your listeners do as well, but my 20s were as stressful as they were fun. So I do tend to work a lot with nervous system, stress resilience and stress tolerance, and sometimes adrenal issues. I work a lot with beautiful herbs in the 20s to boost cognition, focus as well. And we have some lovely herbs. We can talk about those if you like to today. And I tend to bring those in a lot into my treatment programs. And I like to get women in their 20s on a bit of a adrenal strengthening protocol, because I'm looking forwards, to the next 10 to 15 years. And I know that as soon as these women, if they do decide to have children, start creating a family, that there's going to be extra pressures that they may not have a lot of control over. So I tend to like to start building up that nervous system in the 20s. In the 30s, 30s for me, that was kind of when I had this huge career change, end of my 20s, early 30s. So for me personally, it feels like a time of great change and chaos and stress. But, it's different for everybody. 30s is big relationship time, family, whether it is looking after family that are now starting to age, or whether it is building your own family, or perhaps you're trying to do both at the same time. Then we have career. So 30s is a lot, I think, about being able to adapt, but to stay strong. And actually, when I spoke about the yin essence being very strong in, the adolescence and 20s, it's the yang essence that really kicks in the 30s. And the 30s and 40s are very driven. So we like to have goals at this stage of life, I would say. I know I'm generalizing. It's just what I've observed, working with lots of beautiful women. But we have things we also need to get done. It's the get done energy, which is very yang. So there's lots of force, vitality. We need resilience. We need physical strength as well. So I actually work with herbs that have both those qualities of yin and yang, and I tend to bring in a lot of the yang herbs in the 40s, 30s and 40s. Now, when you get to 40s, actually, fertility is starting to fall at this stage, and the science tells us that we're probably at about 10% of our fertility at this time.